So hello everyone. Hello. Good afternoon. Salam alaikum. And shalom. And peace. Irini. Pacem. Any ways that I can wish you peace and greetings in a variety of different languages, tongues, methods. I want to thank everyone who is here for being here. And for those of you who need to leave early, we hope that God or the powers that be will speed you on your way to the next location. And those of you who are staying, we're going to have a lot of fun today. So, I'm Dr. Eric Greenberg. I'm one of the founders of the march itself, the Interfaith Solidarity March. And we are in... Thank you. And I'll assume that you're clapping for the march and not for me, because a lot of people took part in making this what it is. This is an incredible event that is just getting bigger and bigger every year, and I'll talk about that a little bit. But before we get started, I just want to, very briefly, I was asked specifically to make sure that we acknowledge the Tongva peoples as the traditional caretakers of Tova Angar, which is the reference to the Los Angeles Basin and the South Channel Islands. These are the indigenous peoples that have been living in this region for a very long time. And I am grateful to acknowledge the indigenous peoples in this place. As a group with interfaith healing intentions, we pay respect to the ancestors, to the elders, and to our relatives and relations, past, present, and emerging. And I would like to thank the AISC at UCLA for putting together this particular statement with the local community members. So thank you to them. So before I start speaking on a personal level, we have programs here. So if you haven't already registered for the march, we would ask you, please do register. There are a couple of tables over there where you can register, put your name on an email list so you can find out about future events like this one. And I don't know if we have any t-shirts left. I think somebody said that we're actually out of t-shirts. We were giving... there's still time. While quantities last. We're giving these t-shirts away for free because we over-ordered in previous years, all right? But we are, of course, encouraging you to give a modest contribution to cover the costs. But they are free, so one per person, one per marcher, and you have the choice of 2016, 2017, or 2018 t-shirts. You'll see some of the people here with Salam, Shalom, and Peace. That was our inaugural t-shirt in 2016. They're perfectly delightful t-shirts, but it doesn't say a lot else on it. In 2017, we got a little more fancy. 2018, we got more fancy. So whatever else there is, just get them while they last. We have a number of speakers in this first portion of the event. And so while you're there at the registration table, please get a program so that you know exactly what's going on and when. And so essentially, we've been registering and schmoozing from 1 o'clock onwards. And so right now, just a few minutes behind schedule, we are beginning our program of speakers. Now, we will have approximately, I believe, 6 or 7 speakers in this first section, and there are a couple of quick changes that we've made just because a few people have had some urgent situations where they need to leave early, so we want to respect that, and so we're going to have one person swap into the earlier section, but you don't need to worry about that. Just be aware that you might not be able to follow along if you say, wait, who is this? Is this John Smith? This doesn't look like John Smith. So anyway, we'll make sure that you are aware of who's on the podium. So I remember sitting in the main office of the Islamic Center of Southern California with Omar, Richie, and let's just give a quick applause for Omar. I don't want to miss the opportunity to do that because Omar is an incredible human being and I value him as a friend, a colleague, and as a brother. So I was sitting there with Omar and a few key members of the Islamic Center family and the Institute for Religious Tolerance, Peace and Justice, which I represent. Back in 2015, this was somewhere maybe in the summer or fall of 2015, and we were discussing the possibility of holding a march specifically to support the Islamic community, to help promote unity between all of the Abrahamic faiths, and to set an example for people of all faith traditions marching side by side with people of all religions. And we initially called it In the Path of the Prophet Abraham. And in March of 2016, we pulled it off and we marched from Wilshire Boulevard Temple, which was our inaugural location on that march. We then marched next door to St. Basil Roman Catholic, just a really, really long distance of about 100 yards. And then we marched up the street, eastbound on Wilshire Boulevard to Emmanuel Presbyterian, and then north on Vermont to the Islamic Center of Southern California. And it was a great success. So much so that we decided to do it again in 2017, but now with a much broader scope, to actively include and welcome people of all faiths, and not just the Abrahamic faiths. And we called it the Interfaith Solidarity March from that point onward. And our focus has been, since that point, strengthening diversity, plurality, and unity. And that's one of the key catchphrases that you'll see on some of our literature. And that one was even more successful. So much so that we were asked to help organize a march in the San Fernando Valley. And we were the primary organization behind the success of the 2017 San Fernando Valley Interfaith Solidarity March. And we continued to do this in Los Angeles since that time, now in our 4th consecutive year. So this is an annual event, 4th year running. But last year something extraordinary happened, and I wanted to make sure I took a few minutes to talk about this at the very beginning, so that if you're not aware of this march and its history and where it comes from, I want you to be fully aware of it. We were contacted by a coalition of marches based in Columbus, Ohio, called the Interfaith March for Peace and Justice, or IMPJ. And I know there's a lot of alphabet soup we're flowing around, IMPJ, IRTPJ, ICSC. I promise, you'll get used to it after a while. But Greg Davis, one of the founders of the IMPJ, Interfaith March for Peace and Justice, he reached out to us and asked us to partner with him, indicating that providentially that they would be marching on the same exact date as we were, and had done so, unbeknownst to any of us, since the year prior. So this is just a miracle as far as I was concerned, and he was as well. They were a community of about a dozen marches across the U.S. and a few internationally. And this seemed to us, to both of us, like the hand of a powerful, benevolent forces at work bringing us together. And so since that time, our relationship has grown, and because the Interfaith March for Peace and Justice that community felt that their scope was more global than that of their previous parent organization in Columbus, they asked us to come, they asked for them to be able to come under our corporate umbrella and to partner with us in a more permanent and institutional way. So Greg Davis now sits on our board, and we are responsible to administrate and help coordinate the now 24 marches that are holding their events alongside of us today in their own areas of the world. These are semi-autonomous events that are marching under the same heading, the Interfaith March for Peace and Justice, or IMPJ. These are our friends. These are our pen pals. And I've met some of them face to face at the Parliament of World Religions in Toronto, at other events. I've Skyped with them. I've had phone conversations with them. We've been planning with them for several months. We've Zoomed and Skyped with them. These are our brothers and sisters, standing and marching for religious freedom, interfaith solidarity, and for peace and justice. Now, if you had the chance to do something about the tragedies that we hear about in the news, often very far away from us, things like the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017, which turned fatal for one young woman, a peaceful counter-protester named Heather Heyer, who was run over by a car driven by a crazed white supremacist, or the 2018 synagogue shooting at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This is recent news. You remember this, right? We're often far removed from these events, and we tend to feel helpless to do anything about it, to help the community heal, or to directly share our loving condolences and support with those who are suffering there. If you had the chance to reach out to them and befriend them and let them know that you're here to help, here's your chance. 2 of the sister marches, of which we are the most proud, are going on today in Charlottesville and in Pittsburgh at Tree of Life Synagogue, right now, at this very moment. Yes. Some very talented and passionate people are behind those marches, and these people are your siblings in peace. But it doesn't stop there. Even internationally, we have 8 marches in 5 countries. That's outside of the U.S., so that's in addition to the approximately 16 in the U.S. right now. You're aware of what's going on in Jammu and Kashmir right now, all right? You've heard it in the news. We've got a sister march there, and we're proud to call them our friends. and I need to check in on them and see how they're doing. I haven't spoken to them in a few weeks. We also have marches in Tel Aviv and in Bethlehem, which is literally the birthplace of Christianity. There's 2 important marches in those locations going on right now. And so with 24 constituent marches as part of this coalition, this community, this is the largest coalition of interfaith marches in the world, and I cannot say how proud I am to be a part of that. Let me just briefly name off the cities on that list, which we should keep in our hearts today and share our love and prayers with them. If you don't mind, I'll briefly just skip through this. Within California, in the United States, within California, we've got Grass Valley, of course, Los Angeles, Ventura, we've got Boise, Idaho, Chicago, Illinois, and Rock Valley, Illinois, Grand Rapids, Holland, Michigan, Newark, New Jersey, Columbus, Ohio, Toledo, Ohio, Erie, Pennsylvania, and of course Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Columbia, South Carolina, Charlottesville, Virginia, and Cheyenne, Wyoming. And internationally, of course, Jammu and Kashmir in India. We have Tel Aviv and Bethlehem in Israel and Palestine. We have within Malawi, we have Lilongwe and Nkudzi Bay, both those locations. Faisalabad in Pakistan, and Gulu in Uganda. So I want you to say hello to them for the camera, and we'll send this along to them. So if anybody has a camera at the moment, please just point it at the audience, and if we can just for a quick moment say hello to all these friends, and we're going to send this to them somehow. Hello! 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 Okay. I'll make sure they get this, and they'll send their hellos back. They're probably doing this right now, and they're recording it and trying to put it on Facebook or something. So friends, we're making the world smaller, and we're really making the world safe for democracy. Not with guns or bombs. Not with guns or bombs or cloak and dagger methods, but with love and friendship. We're marching. Amen. We're marching to ensure that wherever there are strife and human rights abuses, someone knows that we are watching and that we are standing in solidarity with those who suffer, with those who desire peace and justice, and with those who are people of any faith, all faiths, or even no faith, all people of conscience and goodness. So I want to thank you for believing in this march and participating year after year. Without each and every one of you, and we have a lot of volunteers to thank, so thank you to our planning community and everyone, and we'll say more about that later. But, without each and every one of you, this would still just be an idea. Without feet on the ground, without feet on the street, and especially people with assistive devices who make it out here to march with us every year, people in wheelchairs with walkers, we know that you're here and we appreciate it. These are the most motivated people of all. Without all of you, we would still just be an idea. So let's keep doing what we're doing and show the rest of the world that we're going to solve the world's problems one heart at a time. Thank you. Okay, so in terms of the order of events, I would like to introduce Assam Buyuksoy. Sheikh Assam Buyuksoy has served as the Director of Religious Affairs at the Islamic Center since 2012, where he regularly shares sermons, performs marriages and funerals, and leads classes in Islamic studies, Arabic, and Quranic recitation for all ages. He often leads prayer and participates in various spiritual, educational, and social events at the center, including daily prayers, Ramadan, and special programs. Born and raised in Turkey, Sheikh Assam has a BA in Theology and Religious Studies from Turkey and an MA in Islamic Studies from Claremont Graduate University. Please welcome Sheikh Assam.
Thank you so much, Dr. Arak, for this introduction. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon all of you. I would like to welcome each and every one of you and thank you all for being here for the 4th annual Interfaith March. Dear friends, Islam stresses on the unity of humanity. It also recognizes human diversity and gives valuable principles to deal with ethnic, racial, and religious differences in society. Now, I'll be reciting 2 verses from the Quran which celebrates the human plurality. The first one is chapter 49, verse 13, and the second one is chapter 30, and the verse 22. I will recite first and then share the meaning of the verses with you. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير. ومن آياته خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف ألسنتكم وألوانكم إن في ذلك لآيات للعالمين. صدق الله العظيم. In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. O man, behold, we have created you all out of a male and a female, and have made you into nations and tribes, so that you might come to know one another. Verily, the noblest of you in the sight of God is the one who is most deeply conscious of Him. Behold, God is all-knowing, all-aware. And among His wonders is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the diversity of your tongues and colors. For in this, behold, there are messages indeed for all who are possessed of innate knowledge. God Almighty speaks the truth.
Okay, I'd like to call Omar Ritchie, who is the chairman of the Islamic Center of Southern California and an officer in LAPD's Counterterrorism and Special Operations Bureau.
Thank you, everybody. And let me also extend my thanks first to Arik and his wife, Melissa. Can we give them a round of applause, please? The time, the energy, the intent in which they do their work is just amazing, and I'm very blessed, just as a human being, to know them and to have them as part of the life, my own personal life, and the life here of the Islamic Center of Southern California. So we're here to march. I hope everybody has their marching shoes on, right? Whether young or old, whether able or disabled, we all have hearts, and so we march with our hearts and our souls today. You know, the country and the world seems to be on fire. The mass shootings, what's happening to the synagogues, to the black churches in the South, to the mosques, it can be trying sometimes. But I say to you, it has never been a better time to be an activist. It has never been a better time to march for this cause that you're marching with today. For you get to do the work. If you believe in this country, and if you believe in your higher creator who created you, we are all working for that ideal. The ideal of America, the ideal of your faith, the ideal of humanity. And while there is a cold hurricane and wave that is coming against that ideal, We get to march. We get to work. It is a blessed opportunity. Let us never forget it. Now, I'm not going to say very much because I think Arik said it best. I just wanted to take a moment and thank him for mentioning the Tongva people. We are standing upon their land, and we want to thank them for everything that they have done as predecessors here for the city of Los Angeles. We are grateful for their presence and what they laid forward. I express our thanks on behalf of the Islamic Center of Southern California. I want to bring up somebody who is a mentor of mine, somebody who is a friend, Muhammad Khan. Could you come up and say a few words? Muhammad's been, you know, you hear about people behind the scenes, you know, wheeling and dealing. Muhammad Khan is one of those people, and he's doing it for good. He's doing it for all the spirit of what we have here, and he's most appropriately come here to share a few words.
Assalamu alaikum, shalom, greetings of peace. First of all, I have a group called Star Power offering peace and prosperity. I'm also on the board with Professor Greenberg. He created this amazing organization bringing faith leaders and hearts together. Star Power, I call the wife of Muhammad Ali, the boxer. She's part of our Star Power team. And she reminded me what the champ said. They asked the champ, what do you think of other religions? And the champ, with his wit, said, all rivers run to the ocean. I spoke to Cornelius Grant, who's also part of our Star Power. He's one of the last two of the world-famous Temptations. And I said, Cornelius, I'm going to meet Professor Greenberg and all these beautiful hearts to march for peace and interfaith, multi-faith harmony. And he said he's been doing it all his life through music. World famous Temptations. I just want to end by saying that you could be anywhere today. It's a hot Southern California day, but you decide to march for solidarity and unity because of your love to the Creator. And you know what? God is present because of that. And prayer moves mountains. If you ask the people of Moses, did you defeat Pharaoh? And it was the prayer and divine intervention that takes over. You know, when you look at the traffic light, and when the traffic light is out and not working, it's chaos. People don't know when to stop, when to go, and accidents happen. In today's world, the traffic light is not functioning. And what is the traffic light? The faith leaders are not doing enough to wake up the moral consciousness of human beings so we could stop all the strife. But we in LA, and with all the marches, today we are like the traffic lights. So please give all yourself a good round of applause, because you deserve it. I just want to end with making a prayer for peace. I ask God give us divine intervention so that we can have unity and peace in our nation. God, send us divine intervention so that in the Valley of Saints, where the Kashmiri people live, bring serenity and peace to them, India, and the whole region. God, I ask you to bless everyone present because they took their precious time to serve you and to serve others. Ameen. Accept our prayer. I don't like to do this, but Professor Greenberg, please come up. And your wife, please, Melissa. I met Professor a few moons ago, a few years back, and he had an idea. This was the idea. So I just want to thank him and his wife for all the sacrifices to gather all beautiful hearts together and just spread love. Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you very much, Melissa.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mohammed. I know him as MK, so maybe a lot of you know him as MK as well. The next person that I would like to welcome here is Reverend Patricia Strong Fargus. She's today's representative from the Los Angeles Department of Transportation's Faith for Safety. She's the pastor of Mount Salem Baptist Church and a community activist. Pastor Pat has appeared on many television programs, local newspapers, and national magazines to address hazing activities. Let's have a round of applause for Reverend Pat Strong Fargus. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to introduce myself earlier.
That's good. Good afternoon. There's a saying that goes like this: peace on earth, goodwill towards all men. Maybe some of you didn't hear me, so I'm going to repeat. Peace on earth, goodwill towards all men. We need peace. Oh, y'all don't want peace? I want peace. Peace. Peace on the streets, peace in the homes, peace in the schools, and peace that passes all understanding. And I think that's why we're here. And the reason why I'm standing before you, I want to share with you and ask you to join us with Vision Zero. Vision Zero is an interfaith pledge for safer streets. Interfaith Vision Zero is a pledge for safer streets. I should have got a clap on that one. An interfaith initiative to make streets safer for pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers in Los Angeles. 4 years ago, the city of Los Angeles launched a Vision Zero as an effort to end traffic fatalities in LA by 2025. Each year, hundreds of crashes result in serious injury or loss of life in communities. Have you heard that on TV? Have you seen the news? Almost every day there's a hit and run or some tragic crash into a house, into a restaurant. This is a preventative epidemic in LA. We're asking you to unify with us and collaborate with us as houses of worship. Your ministers and leaders are looked upon for guidance in life and support in times of tragedy. We are a dedicated body of faith and healing leaders in LA and supporting Vision Zero and a citywide programming effort to engage, to inform, and to advocate on behalf of all residents of LA. I'm going to say that again. I don't want y'all to go sleep on me now. I'm going to say that again to you. We want to support Vision Zero and its citywide programming in the efforts to engage, to inform, and to advocate on behalf of all residents in LA. All right? Thank you. So we need you. We need your voice. We need your participation. We need your outreach. We need your support as we build our Los Angeles Faith for Safety Network. Let me have another clap on that one. We need you. Vision Zero needs you. Our major kickoff event is happening this fall. And we love to keep you in the loop. Would you like to stay in the loop?
Yes.
Please help us. For more information, you can visit our website, I'm going to say it in letters, okay, but I'm going to read it first. la.livablestreets.org. LADOTLIVABLE streets, streets.org, or email us at visionzeroengagement@lacity.org. And if you want to hear me repeat it again, or if you want more information, our table is, let's wave our hands, Vision Zero. We're back there giving away supplies. But again, let's come together. Let's unite as one. Let's stop hearing about our children and cross guards getting hit. Let's come together and push Vision Zero. Love you. Amen.
Thank you so much, Reverend Patricia. I would also like to, I want to make sure that we include a sentiment and a welcome to Reverend Dr. Lo Sprague of the Geboord Center, and to share words in honor of our dear departed sister and colleague, my friend and former seminary classmate, Reverend Dr. Gwyn Geboord, who passed from this world only a few weeks ago. I know many of you know her. We're grateful to have Dr. Sprague of the Geboord Center to say a few words in remembrance of Gwyn, who was always very supportive of this march and participated actively since the very beginning. And we hope that we will be able to continue to work with the Geboord Center in years to come and to support their work through collaborations with our many groups represented here. And of course, I would like to introduce her. Dr. Lois M. Sprague was recently named the president of the Geboord Center with the death of Reverend Dr. Gwyn Geboord, its founder. Lo has been involved in the partnering with Gwyn in every facet of the center's creation and development since its inception in 2009. Lo is a deeply spiritual and compelling leader in her own right, who, as a gifted writer, mentor, and public speaker, has dedicated her life to helping others find and follow the sacred within themselves. So please give a round of applause for Reverend Dr. Lo Sprague.
Thank you. My dear friends and colleagues, today as we join with people of faith and good faith here at the Interfaith Solidarity March and its kindred marches around the country and the globe, I am honored to speak on behalf of the Geboord Center and its founder, the late and truly great Reverend Dr. Gwyn Geboord. Those of you who were fortunate enough to know Gwen and to work with her know the enormity of our loss. Those of you who don't, well, you have a treat ahead in discovering her and the visionary she was through the Geboord Center's website. 10 years ago, when Gwen turned 65 and was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, she decided to gather up every good thing in her life, all of her friends and colleagues, her years of experience in building interfaith coalitions, and ferreting out the people who get things done, so she could create a new, smart, informative, cutting-edge organization. We, who were part of the team, then urged her to name it the Geboord Center, Religion Inside Out. It was formed to create opportunities designed specifically to open hearts and minds, to transform the way we see and know one another. Its standards would be excellence, kindness, generosity, and an absolutely fearless dedication to upholding the holy in the other. The Geboord Center would never be about polarizing or politicizing, but rather would always seek out the roots of injustice and cruelty and violence to make the changes there. One of Gwen's most powerful tools was her utterly disarming sense of humor. She never took herself too seriously. Many a negotiation was liberated by that lightning fast, never saw it coming one-liner and the twinkle in her eye. We will surely miss her because it was she who understood that it is the values at the heart of all of our faiths the values of compassion, the values of living for something larger than yourself, the values of honoring those things that are true for all people that can transform us. We will miss her, but it is she who would say to us today, get back to work. The Arctic is melting. The Amazon is burning. The earth herself is dying. White supremacy is rising. Children are being torn from their parents' arms at our borders. Faiths are being turned against one another. Democracy is being shredded, and the concept of truth itself dismissed and discarded. We cannot let this be the new normal. We cannot. We have to use every ounce of courage and strength and goodness we have to stop it. We have to. We have to be as smart as we are passionate. We cannot let our passions lead us without keeping the goal in mind, or we can easily be turned against the other instead of the policies that destroy the soul in all of us. There is no other planet for us to turn to. We must reveal the policies of death for what they are. Greed kills not only the innocent, but also the ones for whom nothing is ever enough. Whether we like it or not, we are one people on one planet. That's how we win. That's the only way we win. So in the spirit of Gwen and of all of those who come together on this day all over the world, let us march on. Thank you.
Thank you, Lo. Thank you. All right. So we're just about ready to march. Now, we have one more person who is going to say a few words regarding how to march, how to chant, and so forth. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a bio for him, but I have been told by reliable sources that he's an amazing human being. So before we head off on our march to the next location, I would like to introduce the Reverend Jeff Pomerantz, who will say a few words about our marching. Yes, as our march and chant leader. Thank you, sir. Yeah, please.
Hello. Hello. First of all, that's a really tough act to follow. I agree absolutely with everything you said, and so I think everybody here does as well. I do have a few words before we get to the march, but let me just say that I think everybody should take a look around this area now and look at the other people who are here. Take a look, really take a look, because this is a gathering of friends. This is a gathering of well-intentioned people, and that is what this movement is really about. My name is Jeff Pomerantz, and I'm an ordained minister of the Church of Scientology. I've been an actor my whole life, and I am also a Jewish Scientologist, adopted Native American who played Jesus Christ for the Mormons. So I've been concerned about justice for all people in all religions my whole life. When I was a young kid, I grew up in southern Indiana as a Jewish kid, and only many years later found out the town I was in was the hotbed of the Ku Klux Klan, for real. And my father said something to me which shaped my life. He said, we are members of a minority. You can never afford to be prejudiced towards anyone. And that actually became the guiding North Star of my life. As a Scientologist, I participated and led many of our church's activities, protests, and marches for human rights, tolerance, and religious freedom for all for over 35 years in some 37 countries. I stayed in South Africa in every black township during apartheid. Sorry. I have seen injustice. Dr. King said injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, and that is true today and will be true for forever. We marched for freedom, tolerance, and justice for all religions in Paris, Berlin, Frankfurt, Hamburg, and all over Italy and France, as well as across the United States. We promoted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and provided educational materials, always free of charge, to countries and communities around the globe. Our volunteer ministers mobilize and arrive at disasters anywhere in the world, and we have a simple motto: no matter what the situation, something can be done about it. And we do. These yellow shirts are now welcomed around the world because of the help at disasters. It's only through education and cooperation that we all, together, can help move society toward greater understanding, tolerance, and justice. We thank you all, our friends here today, everyone, for actively working toward those goals. Thank you very much. Now, it's a hot day, and we're going to be doing these chants in an extremely simple fashion. It'll be just a couple of words. I may do most of it, and all you're going to do is say now. But it's going to be again, and again, and again, and again. And so it's going to require some persistence. And I really appreciate your kind of bearing with it, because it's going to be hot. But the noisier we are, the more people pay attention. All right? And I guess the last thing before I go over the chants a little, it's one or two chants. Take a look at Greta Thunberg. Okay? One girl, one sign, a year ago in front of the Houses of Parliament of Sweden. And yesterday, I think 150 different countries, 4 million people. An idea can change the world.
Yes. In fact, let me say just a few words about that before we go. Okay, so if you do not have a program, please get a program, because it'll indicate exactly, well, approximately when we'll be where. So if anyone needs to drop out for a moment, use a restroom, catch up, this program will indicate where we are. The programs are at that table there. Our first stop on the route is going to be at the Juyang Presbyterian Church, which formerly, in its early life, was actually Temple Sinai, built in 1926. And because we don't have an actual synagogue on our route this year due to some changes and construction and so forth, that's where we're going to stop first, and we will be led in prayer by Rabbi Robin Podolsky. So that's where we're going to be going first. After that, we'll be going to the Founders Church of Religious Science with some words from Dr. Arthur Chang, and also from some performances at that location, followed then by Emmanuel Presbyterian Church, with some words by Reverend Steve Yamaguchi, and also some musical program at that location, and then ultimately back here to the Islamic Center of Southern California, where we will have an abbreviated program of speakers, because one or two speakers, as I said, had family emergencies. One had to come to the beginning, so we've had a little bit longer program at the beginning than we had anticipated, but it's a shorter program at the end, so that'll be easier for you to march your heart out, and then come back and have some snacks and refreshments with us after our brief program in the afternoon. So, did you wanted to say anything else about the...
Well, first, can you hear this? Yeah. Okay, good. So, I'm not sure where we line up. I guess it would be smart if we all went to the side there and formed up.
Sounds good to me.
Does the route go down Vermont?
Right, so we'll be exiting there, turning right, going north to 4th Street, and then crossing.
Just have somebody come and tell me, okay?
Oh, sure, I'll be with you. Yeah.
Okay, so if everybody could just get up out of the comfort of the shade, and we'll all go to the side.
Right here. Nice.
No, I mean, it's just like...
I forget how white my son
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
I like the affirmation.
We'll stay.
The idea of walking, backwards for a mile.
Yeah, people tell me something happens, Jeff.
Oh, this is good. It's stop traffic.
Yeah.
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
Excellent. What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
We can. Anything positive.
How about we just do tolerance for a while? What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice. Tolerance, peace, and justice. Now. Tolerance, peace, and justice. Tolerance, peace, and justice. Now. Tolerance, peace, and justice. Now.
I will not pretend I'm wrong.
Just be careful and try to be the sidewalk, sir.
Yeah, right? Anytime we're done.
They have another sign to pick up. Scooter Brigade.
That wouldn't be a march, that would be a scoot.
It's true, it'd be a scooter. Maybe they could do a sign.
Okay, folks, we're going to cross here. Form a line in front of the church so we have a photo op. Okay. What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
Excellent.
Everybody hear me?
Yes.
Folks in the back, you beautiful sister with the camera in the back, do you hear me? Okay. So, as you probably know, for people like me, for the Jewish people all over the world, we are in a time of profound introspection. We are going into the days of awe when each of us is required to look deep inside, examine our conduct for the previous year, think about what we wish we had not done, but also what we wish we had done. What we wish we had never said, but also what we wish we had stood up and said. And sisters and brothers, these are times that are challenging us all. As was said earlier, we are physically, spiritually threatened as a nation and as a world by a rising tide of white supremacy and hatred. Mosques have been burned. Mosques have been invaded. People have been murdered. Synagogues have been invaded. People have been murdered. Black Christian worshipers in Charleston were shot dead in Bible study. At Oak Creek, Sikh worshipers were murdered. Sisters and brothers, this shtus is real. Okay? You guys know what shtus means, right? Figure it out. And it calls upon us all to reach deep inside ourselves, to answer hatred with mighty love and mighty respect. Self-respect and respect for the other. For that spark of the divine, that neshama, that soul in every human being. Yes. And in our beautiful city, where there are over 200 extant languages spoken, where we are fortunate enough to have the Islamic Center and Sikh temples and Hindu temples and mosques and Christian churches of all denominations and synagogues of all denominations. It is incumbent on us to stand together as we are now. And in the days ahead, we're going to be tried even harder. And so I wish to share a blessing with you, an ancient blessing of our people. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and may God guard you. Ye'er Adonai panav elecha v'yasa lechem v'yechunecha. May the countenance of the Holy One shine upon you, and may you feel grace. Ye'er Adonai panav elecha v'yasa lecha shalom. May the holy countenance turn to you and bring that ancient hope, that ancient gift of shalom, salam, peace.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank Rabbi Robin Podolsky for giving us a prayer rooted in the Jewish tradition, and I just want to make sure that everyone is aware, in case you weren't aware, we are at the Juyang Presbyterian Church, which formerly was Temple Sinai, built in 1926. You can still see some of the aspects of Judaic architecture and relief on it, including the tablets of the Ten Commandments and a couple of menorahs here. And I want to say a word of gratitude to Pastor Shin Kim of the Juyang Presbyterian Church for giving us their blessing to stop at this location. And even though they're not here, because they close up their church at the end of the day, I want to thank them for allowing us to stop here and use this as sort of representative of the Jewish tradition, since this year we weren't able to be hosted by Wilshire Boulevard Temple due to the construction at their location. So thank you also to Rabbi Robin. I appreciate you stepping in and helping us out here. Is everybody in? The ceremony is about to begin. Anyway, you know, okay, anyway. So I hope everybody is here. I hope we haven't lost anybody. There are restrooms here. There are water fountains. But we have one speaker and is it one performance group? Or is it two? Two performance groups, excuse me. Okay, that's right, yes, two performance groups. So first I would like to introduce Dr. Arthur Chang, who is currently the senior minister at Founders Church of Religious Science, where we are right now, in case you didn't know the signs, notice them on the way in, and has served in this capacity for the last 25 years. Founders is the historic mother church of religious science. Dr. Arthur was born in Jamaica. His mother was African Jamaican, and his father was Chinese. His mixed heritage has made him the perfect person to head the diverse ministry at Founders Church. He and his wife Cecile migrated to the United States from Jamaica over 40 years ago. Although he established himself in California as a licensed architect, it was in the ministry that he found his true calling. Dr. Arthur has been awarded 2 honorary doctorate degrees by the organization, Doctor of Divinity and Doctor of Religious Science. The International New Thought Alliance, or INTA, awarded Dr. Arthur their coveted Torchbearer Award. This award has been given to a long line of notable figures, beginning with Buckminster Fuller. So without further ado, allow me to introduce Dr. Arthur Chang.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Am I on? I'm on. I kind of almost can't hear myself. Good afternoon, everyone. I cannot. Oh, I am not turned on? Testing, testing. Testing, testing, testing. No, I hear you back here. You know, the good thing about being spiritual is that you begin to take on some of the quality of omnipresence. And on that note, I would have wished you a warm welcome, but I don't think that would be quite appropriate, so I'm going to wish you a cool welcome in Founders. If you look around here, you'll see a round building. It's not exactly round, but it looks round. And that's because Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind and Religious Science, really was looking at an all-inclusive sense of what God is and who we are as a people. Just a quick word on who we are, because people sometimes get strange feelings about what we mean by saying religious science or the science of mind. The science of mind really means, science means how something works. That's all science means. You can do a lot of research on it if you want to go, but science just means the way something works. And mind means God. And so what we are, we're a group that wants to work the way God works through principles, and we are grounded primarily in the Christian religion, both the mystical and metaphysical side of the religion, and also in Judaism. But we are inclusive of all the religions, and Ernest Holmes once said, we take truth wherever we find it, and we make it our own to the extent that we understand it, and in doing so, we rob no one, because truth belongs to everyone. So on that note, I want to just welcome you here. I want to talk a little bit about longing and belonging, because I think there is something in us that reaches out. There is some fire within us, a light within the heart, that brings our awareness into what beauty is, and brings our sense of passion to what opportunities are, and brings our way of serving in terms of how love is in the world. And I believe we are living in a relational world where everything is connected to everything else. And it is interesting that recently one of the wonderful ecologists, noting that we have lost 30 billion birds between North America and Canada, is saying that the earth is unraveling. Now that is not any news to any of you who have seen what's happening with all the things that are happening around the world. But we're not here particularly to solve all the problems. We have to start somewhere. And perhaps the best place to start is just belonging in our hearts and the sense of belonging that we have. I want to share with you a line by poet David White that says, longing is the transformation, longing is the transfiguration of aloneness. And what he's looking at is that you can't master your aloneness, which we are in a real sense. He says, what we have to do is to acknowledge our longing for connection, for a sense of belonging to something larger than ourselves. Now, I have heard that this morning. This is not anything new to any of you. He talks about orienting ourselves differently towards the core yearning, which is that longing, to envelop it with more gentleness and less judgment. Can you imagine a world where we can be softer with each other, where we can be kinder with each other? Another wonderful poet, John O'Donohue, he says that we live in a world that responds to our longing. It is a place where the echoes always return, even if sometimes slowly. The hunger to belong is at the heart of our nature. Cut off from others, we atrophy and turn in on ourselves. The sense of belonging is the natural balance of our lives. O'Donohue speaks of the fact that we are like innocent children, and our hearts are easily hurt when we are excluded. And we started out this movement, I understand, concerned about our Islamic friends. But the issue of our Islamic friends is our issues too. And our hearts are such that it is sensitive to the fact that when we are excluded, and often if we're black, and often if we are not the right color, or maybe we're Irish and came to the country at the wrong time. I don't know who it is that was here first, but there was a cartoon I had seen recently where a Caucasian man is telling the black folks to go back to their country, and then he's telling the Hispanic folks to go back to their country, and then suddenly comes to an Native American, and they're standing like this, looking at each other. So, we don't have a country, we have a planet. We have a place where we can live and feel and have our being together and recognize the amazing creation that life is. And this amazing creation wasn't here for one thing to be better than the other. It was here in the same way that we treat flowers. We make bouquets of them. We make different combinations of them. This is part of the amazing creativity that we have. So when we are in isolation and we begin to act as if we're the only ones that matter, we are prone to be damaged ourselves. Our minds lose their flexibility and natural kindness. We become vulnerable to fear and negativity. The ancient and eternal values of human life, truth, unity, goodness, justice, beauty, and love, are all statements of true belonging. They are also the secret intention and dream of human longing. While we yearn for the integration, we are fundamentally fragmentary. We're fundamentally folks who are alone. And when we understand that our reaching across our boundary, out of it to another, is really a way of making ourselves complete, to have a true sense of belonging. Because you can't have a sense of belonging in yourself and for yourself. You will simply collapse into that abyss of nothingness and meaninglessness. It's only when the longing is reaching out and across boundaries that there is the profound spiritual sense of belonging that brings us all together to let us realize that we are living in a world that is relational. Even with God, it's relational. Everything is relational. And once we lose the objective of what it is to be relational, then we have lost the sheltering values of our aim, such as religious tolerance, justice, and peace. It is said, at least it used to be said when I went to high school, it's probably not said anymore, a stitch in time saves nine, but who sews anymore, right? When you get a little rip on your pants or something like that, if you get the stitch in time, it will save 9 stitches later on. And what you're doing really, in effect, is living that principle. Because if we can begin to provide the seams back to what is being unraveled here as part of our own sense, of our own cosmology, our sense of the world, then we can really save the planet and in such doing save ourselves. Billions of trees are being planted elsewhere than in America because we don't seem to have that intention right now. But you have that intention. And it doesn't matter that someone may not have that intention as long as you can keep it sacred so that the seeds that you are planting of love, of togetherness, of understanding, of compassion, of flexibility, of the fact that sometimes we will be inconvenienced by our relationships. As long as you're willing to do that, you have brought us to that moment of transformation where we won't simply be who we were, but we'll become the next breed of people who can really not only save the planet, but save each other. God bless you all. At this time, we thank you very much. We have a wonderful singer, Barbara Cordova, singing a piece for a song for us called Planet of Peace. an appropriate thing right now. Barbara is the founder of Artists for a Better World. Sounds like the right thing to do right now, which is creating a better world through aesthetics and support of better social group. So, where's Barbara? There she is. Barbara, come on up. Give her a hand, please. There is a microphone. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mine is here.
Is this on? Hello. That was a beautiful speech, Mr. Chang. Thank you so much. Yes, and I'm very inspired by that. Yes, I started this, very briefly, I started this group many years ago, and I was getting artists and writers to send me their submissions for art and music. And somebody sent me some lyrics that said Planet of Peace. And I was taking piano lessons at the time, and I decided I would write the music to this. I am a songwriter. I write other songs. I've never written a song on piano, but this is one I wrote. We recorded it, and I thought appropriate to sing here today in honor of these events. In a circle around the world, with everyone holding hands. No one could fight, there'd be peace on earth for every child, woman, and man. We prevent annihilation of the next generation. Every human heart must play its vital part. Looking for vision beyond this course of collision we're traveling. Can it, tell me, can it be our planet of peace, planet of peace, planet of peace? Imagine finding our way, all the weapons out of our lives, freedom to live without the threat of bombs, guns, and knives. Maybe one day we'll all be see locked away in some museum. Every human heart must play its vital part. Looking for a vision beyond this course of collision we're traveling. Can it, tell me, can it be our planet of peace, planet of peace, planet of peace? The same flag flying so proud, language of peace without a word, spoken to us so loud. Let's rebuild the bridges we're burning. We call to stop the world from turning. Every human heart must play its vital part. Looking for a vision beyond the course of collision we're traveling. Can it, tell me, can it be our planet of peace, planet of peace, planet of peace? to a gentleman named Dan Weissman.
Thank you, Barbara. That was lovely. You make peace sound very easy.
It should be that easy.
We need to feel it in our heart. As we bring up the next performer, I just want to let you know that the building here that you're in was designed by the great black architect Paul Williams. And Paul Williams, during his life, didn't really get a lot of recognition by the powers that be, but if you know that little theme building at the airport, when you go down there, you see that little round building up there, he was the one who did it. And just about 3 years ago, the American Institute of Architecture finally awarded him the gold medal for the great work that he has done here. And this building is just about ready to get national recognition as one of the great piece of architecture in our city and in the United States. I myself am fortunate to also live in a Paul Williams building, which is every day I get up and I say, this can't be true. You know? But right now we have the chief pay project. I gotta say this. If you saw it on your list, it would be XIPE. These are a traditional Aztec dance group presenting their traditional indigenous dance from Mexico. General Lazaro has represented this culture for about 40 years. He has traveled throughout the United States and other countries, sharing these very valuable traditions. He's a teacher in this tradition. As a result, countless people have learned and shared the culture with deep pride. Their regalia have meaning, and so do their dances, in relation to the earth natural elements which sustains life. This group is happy to share its culture in the traditional dances of its country. And so please welcome this marvelous group.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, Dr. Greenberg is coming back. I just want to let you know, back here is a new room, and it has all the different religious symbols on it, because that's what we feel about all the religions, that each one is a cultural manifestation of God's revelation to everyone, and they have something to teach us and something for us to learn. So we have been at this a long time. So we're very happy to be one with all of you in what it is that you're doing. But right now, Dr. Greenberg, the microphone is up here. You might take over and tell the folks what else to do. But thank you for coming to Fountain. We appreciate it.
So I want to be sure to thank Reverend Dr. Arthur Chang and the entire community of Founders Church of Religious Science for hosting us here. They have spent a lot of time and effort and staff personnel power in trying to make this a very good march. You know, we've had countless conference calls and all sorts of meetings over the last several months. And Pat Gentry specifically was the person always there on every call, helping us, and she's of course a representative of Founders Church. So I want to thank all of the Founders Church community for letting us be here. I want to thank Barbara Cordova for sharing with us your time, your energy, the beauty of your song. And I want to thank Shipe Totek also for the beauty of their dance and conveying to us the wisdom of their civilization that they're representing. So at this point, we're about to go to our next location. So if you have not already used the restroom or taken a sip out of the water fountain, now's the time to do it. We're gonna, I guess, file through whatever doors Pat or whoever guides us towards. We will then reconvene out on the street right in front of where we came in, and we will move to the next location, which is Emmanuel Presbyterian. Okay?
Oh, yes, I do. Oh, the Onyx.
I used to see people in there, celebrities, and they write their scripts.
Oh my God, that is so. You brought that name back to me. I have to
It's my right.
It's my right.
It's human right.
It's human rights.
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
When do we want it?
Now.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Are you really sure?
Yes.
Excellent. Watch the cement here.
I don't know, it's a lot of carbs. It is a lot of carbs. I can go for carbs right now.
Oh, you mean the roots?
I was actually about a month ago looking forward to it. No, we don't do it anymore.
Like we haven't done it in 10 years.
Yeah, probably.
No, but no, I do think.
And the basement.
So I want to thank everyone for marching to the next location, and we will be treated with some words of wisdom and also some additional entertaining music. So first I would like to introduce Reverend Stephen Toshio Yamaguchi, who is the transitional co-pastor of Emmanuel Presbyterian Church, where you happen to be, in case you didn't notice the sign on the way in, who earned degrees from Claremont School of Theology, my alma mater as well, Princeton Theological Seminary, and Westmont College. He also studied at Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary and Harvard Divinity School, so a very educated man. He has served the Presbyterian Church in many capacities in areas of theology and worship, race and culture in the church, and leadership and polity or organization. He was recently elected to the Board of Trustees of Princeton Theological Seminary and in the past has served on the boards of San Francisco Theological Seminary and Westmont College. So without further ado, I give you Reverend Steve Yamaguchi.
Thank you, Dr. Greenberg, and welcome. Welcome, marchers. Bienvenidos y bienvenidas, amigos y amigas. We are Emmanuel Presbyterian Church, and we worship here weekly in English and in Spanish. I do most of the English load, and but we are happy to have you here to share in this declaration with our feet, walking the walk in support of justice and solidarity and our shared humanity in a world where we are so divided. It is my treat to introduce some friends who work here with me. Can you hear me okay? Okay. We have on our musical staff here some very gifted musicians that I have come to love and appreciate so much as people, but also as musicians, because I am so blessed by their gift. You heard Paul. Paul Voia-Tipe is from Romania, but is here working on a doctorate in music at USC, and we are blessed with his music regularly, and he will be accompanying September Penn. Let me tell you a little about September. There's so much I could say, but I want to keep it short, so I'm just gonna read a little. She's a singer and a songwriter and a performing artist. She's become an expert in the music of the civil rights movement. You may know Dr. Claiborne Carson, the history professor at Stanford, to whom Coretta Scott King gave Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s papers to be archived. So the King archives are at Stanford under Claiborne Carson's direction. He worked for more than 30 years and wrote on this play called Passages of Martin Luther King. And September Penn has been the musical director for the presentation of this Passages program. She was the music director of the program, of the production in Beijing, China in 2007 and 2011 for the State Department's sponsored production. Also directed productions in East Jerusalem and the West Bank. In 2013, she traveled to Palo Alto to participate in Stanford's 50th anniversary commemoration of the March on Washington. And she was honored to be asked to sing songs that Marian Anderson had sung that day in 1963. Out of that work, she has developed a production called The Sounds of the Civil Rights Movement, The Power of Song, which tells the story of the civil rights movement through the music of the civil rights movement. The original California production was just a few years ago at the Ambassador Auditorium in Pasadena, and then the second production was at the Alex Theater in Glendale, and I am so happy to invite you to the third production, which we're planning here in this space this coming February. And you are all welcome. And September and her husband, Ivan, who produced this program, insist that it remain a free show. And we want you to come and bring friends and family to come to this remarkable experience. September is also a student and a seminary student, a candidate for ministry in the Presbyterian Church. She's recorded and taught around the world. She's also a mother of 3. And, but most of all, I'm so grateful that she's a colleague and has become a friend, and she's going to come share with us. September Penn.
Things that we have prepared for you all, but as you came in and Paul was playing this, it set in my spirit to start with this. Because this, as you walked in, this is what I sensed. It was an amen, amen, amen. with that. So do it again. So what we're doing, we're gathering all of us of different faiths and different beliefs, but knowing there's one God, coming together as brothers and sisters in humanity with the love of God for humanity. So that's always an amen. I don't know if you say amen or not, but it's an amen. It's an agreement with whatever's been said, whatever is happening. I agree with that. My spirit agrees with that. So my voice had to chime in and agree with that. I pray that you also are in agreement with that. I'm going to share a little bit from the production that Pastor Steve was sharing about passages of Martin Luther King, and then also Sounds of the Civil Rights Movement, The Power of Song. The first opening song always talks just a little bit about quick history of how those freedom songs got started. Yeah, you can sit there. And they came out of the black church. They took songs straight out of the church. They flipped some of the lyrics, and church songs became freedom songs. And here's just an example of one of them. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on Jesus. I woke up this morning with my mind, you know it was stayed on Jesus. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on Jesus. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. They flipped that lyric, it became, I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind, you know it was stayed on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I'm walking and talking with my mind stayed on freedom. I'm walking and talking with my mind, you know it is stayed on freedom. I'm walking and talking with my mind stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Walk it out now, walk to freedom, walk to freedom, walk to freedom. Mind on freedom, walk to freedom, walk to freedom, walk to freedom. Mind on freedom, walk to freedom, walk to freedom, walk to freedom. Mind on free, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. So just like you're doing, a walk into freedom. The freedom to worship how we want to worship and to serve how we want to serve. That's just a little bit of an example. I'm going to invite Mr. Pastor Steve to come and join me so we can have a little bit of Spanish. Even though he focuses on the English service, he's also quite fluent in Spanish, so he's going to help us out a little bit. You're going to recognize this tune. If you find yourself in here anywhere, please join in. Lift your voice with us. We're not just doing entertainment, we're doing this together. I mean, I've marched with you, but I can sing with you. You can sing with me, right? Thank you. I heard somebody. You can clap too if you can find it there. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. Just like a tree that's standing by the water. We shall not be moved. song has been used in just about every march, every event, every time we're trying to move forward. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Can we lift our voices together? This little light. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, oh, everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, everywhere I go, oh, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, everywhere I go, oh, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light, oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, oh, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, oh, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world. Here we go. Oh, building up a world. Oh, I'm gonna let it shine together. We're building up this world. And yes, we're gonna let it shine. Oh, we're building up this world. And I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. We all need courage. We all need courage. Yes, and let our light shine. Wherever we go, wherever we touch, let our light shine. This is one more we're going to do with you all. Please know we have the restrooms that are here for you. Need to use them. We got the ladies' room this way. We got another bathroom this way. There's water in the back. Be refreshed. This last song, you all know this very well. I'm going to ask you, can I help me count in Spanish, please? These are the whole world, all of us. Black and white, Chinese, African. We had someone visiting us this morning, well, Romania. Our good Paul is from Romania. All of these beautiful people, representations of the body of Christ. God is so big and awesome. And we get to be a part of that. Just by participating. Just by being with one another. Seeing the God in each other, the Imago Dei in each other. All of us are in His hands. If you feel like standing and singing, you can do this, but I know you've been walking and marching, so you can stay seated if you want to. Whatever feels cozy right now. But we're going to bless you with this one last song. He's got the whole world in His hands. 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 He's got the whole She's got you and me, sister, in her hands. She's got you and me, brother, in her hands. She's got you and me, sister, in her hands. She's got the whole world in her hands.
Tiene a todos a sus manos, tiene a todos
A sus manos, tiene a todos, a sus manos.
tiene a todos en sus manos.
He's got the whole world in his hands. 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 He's got him. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his
Lessons on marching as we continue. Thank you for joining us. Please, water, restrooms, be comfortable, enjoy.
Thank you.
Wally and Nika. Yep.
But the donation
coming?
are
Let me just grab her. That's great. Thank you.
You guys want to carry the banner? You want to carry the banner? Very
And we're going to our final location, the Islamic Center, in a couple of minutes. And then we'll have an abbreviated version, it's going to be an abbreviated section of speakers, because a couple of them went at the beginning. And then we can have some snacks. Let's go. Okay. All right, ready? Okay. All right, folks. So, unfortunately, we lost Reverend Jeff. He had another location to go to, but we will be under the careful eye of Pastor Brad and Ali.
I will make it happen.
Okay. They'll make it happen.
What we want?
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice. When do we want it?
Now!
What we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
Oh, it's not on.
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice! justice. Now. Tolerance, peace, and justice. Now. Tolerance, peace, and justice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Tolerance, peace, and justice. When do we want it? Now. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Tolerance, peace, and justice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Tolerance, peace, and justice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Tolerance, peace, and justice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want?
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Tolerance, peace, and justice. Now. Tolerance, peace, and justice. Now. Tolerance, peace, and justice. Now.
My name is Melissa Crandall. I'm the Director of Communications and Development for the Institute of, sorry, I'm so tired. You know how late I was up getting all those things ready. You know who we are now by now. Institute for Religious Tolerance, Peace, and Justice. So welcome to the Interfaith Solidarity March, Los Angeles 2019. This event is now a flagship partner of the Interfaith March for Peace and Justice, the world's largest coalition of interfaith marches, which has grown to be in 24 locations around the world, including 16 cities in the U.S. and 8 abroad. This includes organizers in Charlottesville, Virginia, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the Tree of Life Synagogue, and events in Israel, Palestine, India, Pakistan, Malawi, and Uganda, all today. When we started this annual event in 2016, Walking in the Path of the Prophet Abraham, we showed that people of all faiths walk in unity toward the same goal. In 2017 and 2018, we have seen many changes in society. In addition to the rise of violent extremism, people in ever greater numbers are standing up to say they believe in peace. Now in our 4th year, we continue to grow and have faith that this peopled world and its ever-shifting priorities can make peace by coming together in community. The Interfaith Solidarity March and Interfaith March for Peace and Justice are programs of the Institute for Religious Tolerance, Peace and Justice, a 501c3 nonprofit corporate organization founded in 2011. It's an all-volunteer organization whose mission it is to promote religious tolerance, interfaith dialogue, and education about religions of the world as a pathway to world peace. The IRTPJ is the brainchild of Dr. Eric Greenberg, college professor and recipient of the 2018 Human Rights Champion Award, whose life mission it is to bring the world together in interfaith understanding. And after 15 years, I'm still glad I married him. By promoting interfaith dialogue and universal respect for different faiths, we seek to minimize the conflicts that are shaped by religion and employ religion as their excuse. We seek to disarm the religious intolerance that is often the cause and underlying root of oppression and warfare. We seek to educate the general public through a variety of methods about the diversity of religious beliefs around the world in an attempt to combat religious oppression, intolerance, and violence. Other programs of the Institute, as we like to call it, if there are any Seinfeld fans out there, include Interfaith Ambassadors, which is field trips to various houses of worship, panel discussions and public lectures, including the Our Muslim Neighbors Forum, and the Religion Matters Show web series, which has had over 250,000 views. We uphold each person's right to choose their religious beliefs and affirm that no one has the right to force religious, spiritual, or philosophical beliefs upon any other person, either by physical force or by any other means. The right to free expression of worship, or the lack thereof, is an individual right, so long as such free expression does not hinder the mutual freedom of others. We seek to have far-reaching and long-lasting effects in helping the world to mature to a more peaceable, tolerant, and just place. I would like to thank our sponsors, the Safe Alliance of Interfaith Leaders, International Multi-Faith Coalition, Founders Church of Religious Science, the Gabord Center, Luis Gonzalez, LA Department of Transportation's Faith for Safety, Islamic Center of Southern California, Six of LA, Emmanuel Presbyterian Church, and Unitarian Universalist Community Church of Santa Monica. I'd also like to thank our partnering organizations, which are listed on the program, and our dedicated volunteers. Without all of these partners and friends, we could not pull this off. And without all of you, there would be no march. If you can find it in your heart and your wallet to contribute, you may find donation envelopes on our display tables outside the hall. Thank you once again for showing up and doing your part to raise the consciousness of all humanity to that of universal peace. Without further ado, allow me to present, I better not prevent her coming up here, our first speaker. She'll have something to say about that because we have Captain Patricia Sandoval. She was born and raised in Los Angeles in the San Fernando Valley. Yeah, Valley girls, woo! She earned her Bachelor of Science degree in Criminal Justice and Master of Arts degree in Organizational Management from San Diego University. She has worked a variety of assignments and divisions as a police officer, sergeant, detective, lieutenant, watch commander, administrative lieutenant, commanding officer, ultimately promoted to captain, captain 2, and is now the area commanding officer of Olympic Area LAPD.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. I appreciate that. And I'm so impressed with the stamina of everybody. We are still moving. So thank you so much for today. I will be brief because I know everyone is tired. But the LAPD is so appreciative and so thankful to be a part of the 4th annual Interfaith Solidarity March in LA. We're all here as one, to be strong, to be diverse, to be plural, and to be united. And the LAPD is so proud to be a part of this. It's so important for all of us to come together as a community and to stand side by side with one another, despite our differences in faith, in beliefs, and in our preferences. The key is coming together, and it's really simple. It's all based on respect. Respect for each other, respect for each other's beliefs, differences, respect for each other's similarities, and pure and simple respect for ourselves. When we look around, we realize that oftentimes we have more similarities than we do differences. A simple hello or a sincere smile really can make our interactions positive. So I welcome each and every one of you to, whenever you see someone, whether they're similar, whether they're different, to reach out your hand and say hello and give a smile. That really makes a difference. And again, I'm so proud of the police department. They were out there today to make sure that you guys were able to walk the sidewalks, be at the different locations in a safe manner. So whenever you see the police, please say hello to us. We are here to help, and we are here to be a part of the community. So I'm so proud to be here, and thank you so much. Thank you.
Narinyan Singh Khalsa is an activist for and has publicly represented the Sikh community for more than 30 years. He's the executive director of the California Sikh Council and a cultural intelligence educator and advisor to the Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security, LAPD, Los Angeles and Orange County Sheriff's Departments, and many other public and private organizations. For more than 15 years, he has served as a commissioner on the City of Los Angeles Human Relations Commission, LA's premier human rights organization. Welcome, Narinyan.
Thank you, and congratulations to all of you. It was warm today. I cheated. I stayed here in the AC and took care of some business on the phone. I'd also like to congratulate Melissa and Eric. They do a terrific job. They've done a terrific job, and congratulations on another successful march. All right, I was talking to someone the other day, and I told them about this march and this demonstration of love and unity that we're displaying here today, and I told him he should come. He said, "What's the big deal?" He said, "If you look at the original teachings of the founders of all the major faith traditions, they should all be getting along anyway." You know what? He's right. And if you just looked at the teachings and took people out of the equation, it would probably work that way. But people and human nature are part of the equation, and it's the dark side of human nature that we need to call out and lift people out of. Those who we reach out to educate today are not our enemies, but the fear, the hatred, the greed, the power hungriness, the pride and egomaniac that consumes them is our enemy. And that's what we're fighting against here today. You don't have to become who I am to understand and respect who I am. Understanding and respecting another's beliefs doesn't weaken yours. As a matter of fact, it tends to teach you the beauty and uniqueness of your own chosen path and confirm how right it is for you. I need you to reach deep into your own heart and find the path that fulfills you and gives you your own unique connection to God. Or, if God is not your path, just your connection to living life in a righteous manner. By doing that, you'll feel secure enough in your own practice, identity, that you'll understand that my practice and identity are not a threat to you. So as we've marched and spoken here today about religious unity and supporting each other rather than undermining or worse, fighting with each other, or still even worse, committing violence in the name of religion, I encourage each and every one of you to clear any fear of the other from your heart. Fill your heart with love and reach out to teach others how to do the same. Educate yourselves about the practices and beliefs of the brothers and sisters you've walked with here today, and reach out and get to know them. We have an opportunity here in this brief moment of time where we can begin a movement that will create a foundation of peace on which we can build a world of mutual understanding and respect. Only by doing this can we make hate, bigotry, violence, and conflict in the name of religion a thing of the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Brad Bailey serves as the senior pastor of the Westside Vineyard Church, which is a rather diverse gathering of lives in racial, socioeconomic, and generational dynamics. He has spent time living in Europe and India, but Los Angeles has always been home. Please welcome Brad Bailey.
It's good to be here. Good afternoon. I really want to climb on the words that were just said because I just share a lot of the same sentiments, as well as my appreciation for Eric and his wife and all of the leadership into tolerance. Eric brought a number of students to our community, and we were talking afterwards, and the whole issue of tolerance was what we began to engage, and it just drove me back into our discussions about what is tolerance. And I think that I feel challenged to keep pressing further into it, and I just hope that's something that you want to do as well. And part of that is to realize that tolerance used to mean how you relate to those people that you don't agree with. That's why it means to tolerate them. But so often it seems that now tolerance is about, if you don't agree with me, then I don't have to be tolerant with you. It's more about kind of we all have to somehow believe the same thing. And I think it's so vital that we don't. And I think, as many of us noted, and it was just shared, fear is kind of that basis. We're all afraid. We all have fears of what we don't understand and what we're not familiar with, all of us. But if you play on that fear enough and you stir up my fears, eventually the polarization takes place. And I don't feel like we've ever lived in a time in which our culture has mastered polarizing us as much as they have today. And really, that's us. We're all in that process. And we get most polarized as I see that the mastery of making an enemy. To be polarized, you have to have an enemy. There has to be a really good enemy. And I see how much our culture is mastering creating the ultimate enemy, whoever they might be, whatever you're not familiar with, demonizing it, and then placing all of the blame for the ills on that. And so we want to cast everything upon some other group that we can somehow, if we could overcome them, always a them, then maybe we'll overcome things. But it takes one step further that I've been reflecting on, and that is, if we can assume that they're hateful, then it's okay for me to hate. I'm not really hateful as long as I just hate people who hate. That is the premise and the politics of hate. It constantly presumes that if you don't agree with me, you're hateful against me. Not everyone who disagrees is hateful. And I think I want to encourage us towards that, because I think we end up full circle if we don't go down that route. I do, and I end up in self-righteousness where I think I'm all good and somebody else is bad, all bad. And in my own tradition, as many are familiar, Jesus has that moment in which a woman caught in adultery, somehow only she was caught, is dragged out before her, thrown down right in the middle of the village, the community, to be shamed. And they all pick up their stones, and they're going to project all of that upon her to her death. Until Jesus finally says those words, "He who's without sin, let him cast the first stone." An incredibly uncomfortable moment. But they were really just projecting their own shame, their own unresolved struggles upon her. And that brings me right back to that place where I have to look at myself and realize it isn't about people who hate out there, although there are, and there's a lot to protest, but it does begin with us. We all are vulnerable to fear, and if we're vulnerable to fear, we're vulnerable to hate. It's that simple. So those words that we have to confront that fear, and we have to face that hate. I want to encourage us towards that place. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Our next speaker is Evan Clark. He's the Executive Director of Atheists United Los Angeles and Chair of the Secular Student Alliance Board of Directors. He founded Spectrum Experience LLC, the nation's first humanist communications firm, and co-hosts Foundation Beyond Beliefs podcast, Humanist Experience. He also attended California Lutheran University from 2007 to 2011 and served as the school's first openly atheist student body president. Welcome, Evan.
Hi, everyone. I want to thank you for marching today. And it's an honor to march next to you all for the pursuit of equity, diversity, and pluralism. And I'm here representing the secular communities of Greater Los Angeles, the atheists, agnostics, humanists, skeptics, and free thinkers among us. I had some stuff I wanted to say, but I just really quickly want to mention how interfaith spaces are still new for the secular community in a lot of ways. The language of interfaith has been contentious between faith communities and secular communities. And I even had a conversation today where there's still struggle and confusion about our place in these settings simply because we do personally reject the language of faith often. I know myself, I do. But that doesn't mean that our goals are any different, that the values we share are any different, or that our humanity is any different. Just this morning, we had a group meeting, as we do every month. We have a speaker series in our group at Atheists United, and we had a woman visiting from the Middle East, and she, before she spoke to us, and we usually open our meetings with a short story, she asked us to turn our cell phones off, because where she's from, it's illegal to be atheist. She could be in jail for the rest of her life. And To me, this speaks to the need for us to stand for pluralism no matter our differences. The idea that there are human values that are universal, regardless of any creed or tradition, and the freedom of religion, which is one of the strongest human rights we have, also includes the freedom from religion. With that, I'd like to read a poem, short essay. That's the closest thing I have to a prayer in my tradition. Many of you have likely heard this before, and I hope you enjoy it. And just to set this up, you have to picture an image, a really famous image taken in 1990 by the Voyager spacecraft. It's the first spacecraft to leave our solar system. It was launched in 1977. And as it was passing Neptune, it turned around and took a picture back of the solar system. And you can see through this ray of light, this little dot. And that dot is Earth. And this was written about that. If you look at it, you see a dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you've ever heard of, every human being who ever lived out their lives, the aggregate of all joys and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilizations, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every hopeful child, every mother and father, every inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived here on a mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors so that in glory and triumph they could be the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of the dot on scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner of the dot. How frequent their misunderstandings, how eager they are to kill one another, how fervent their hatreds. Our posturing, our imagined self-importance, and delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere and save us from ourselves. It's up to us. It's been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. To my mind, there is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceit than this distant image of our teeny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly and compassionately with one another and preserve and cherish that pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known. That was by Carl Sagan. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker today was also our first. Dr. Eric Greenberg is the founder and president of the Institute for Religious Tolerance, Peace, and Justice, and is an ardent advocate for interfaith dialogue and collaboration as pathways to world peace. Having studied numerous world religions, he received his PhD in religious studies from Claremont Graduate University, specializing in New Testament and Christian origins with emphasis on the diversity of belief within early Christianity. He is the author of My Share of God's Reward, Exploring the Roles and Formulations of the Afterlife in Early Christian Martyrdom. In 2018, he was a recipient of the Human Rights Champion Award from Youth for Human Rights International. He currently serves on the theology faculty of both Loyola Marymount University and Ezra University. The founding of the Institute is the culmination of his vision, the realization of his dreams, and his life's work in the years to come. Welcome, Dr. Eric.
Thank you, Melissa. Before I launch into my final closing words for the day, I really want to just take a moment to thank the Islamic Center of Southern California once again for hosting us. And I want to thank all of the other houses of worship on the route for hosting us in turn. And and I'll say several of these thanks together, and maybe we can applaud for all of them. I want to thank the planning committee of the Interfaith March for Peace and Justice, without whom this event would not have come off. And I specifically want to thank Melissa, without whom I would be just some crazy guy with some dreams. So thank you, Melissa, and thanks to everyone. Yeah. And I want to thank also all of the speakers who have spoken for us in the early part of the day and throughout the day and here at the end of the day. And we're actually not too terribly far off from our original goal. It's 5:15, and I'll take about 5 to 7 minutes. So we'll be about 20 minutes behind schedule. See, I told you it would work, you know? So, and specifically, I want to thank LAPD specifically because they've really helped. They've helped keep us safe in the streets. And, I said something to Captain Sandoval earlier today that I really am very proud to be in a city with a police force as wonderful as LAPD. I know there have been some criticisms over the years, but really, there's no police force like LAPD. I'd rather be here than any other city, with the way things are in the world today. So thank you. So let me share some thoughts with you in closing, and I'll try not to let my voice crack too much. I recently learned that in World War II, the New York Times failed to sufficiently report on the Holocaust as it was happening. Believe it or not, you'd think that, it would have been on the front page all the time. Approximately 23,000 headlines of the New York Times during that period of World War II. All right, about 23,000 headlines on the front page, all right? So counting that up. Over 11,000 of them were about World War II. Maybe other things were about politics at home, but 11,000 of them, over one half, were about World War II. But only 26, and I don't mean 26,000, I mean 26, 26, pertained to the Holocaust itself. Now, the New York Times knew that it was happening. They had excellent articles about it, very well researched, very well reported, excellent journalism, but they too often buried it deep inside the unread sections of the newspaper, opting to keep it off of the front page. And because of this, so many Americans knew nothing about the plight of the world's Jews as it was happening. And remember that at that time, the New York Times was America's gold standard for reporting. Most people got their news from the New York Times, and even politicians such as Franklin Delano Roosevelt, our president at the time, took their cue from the Times reporting. But they had an opportunity to make a difference when a genocide was happening, and for a variety of reasons, political, religious, and otherwise social, they chose not to. But we live in a different age at this point in time, an age where you can gain access to any information you want at the touch of a button. And yet still, various news sources make it more attractive for us to find out what the Kardashians are eating, or what Beyonce is wearing, or whatever Kanye West said about slavery being optional. There are genocides and human rights abuses going on all over the world today. There is tremendous suppression of human rights going on in Jammu and Kashmir right now. And I know that Mohammed Khan earlier today had mentioned that in passing. There is the Rohingya genocide and the displacement of 750,000 people going on in Myanmar right now. There is an oppressive regime in Uganda that has imprisoned and tortured its own elected representatives if they disagree with the dictator who has been in power over 33 years running now. Think about that, a president who's been in power for 33 years and no sign of stopping just yet. And I'm speaking specifically of the imprisonment and torture of Bobby Wine, the young member of parliament who has suffered for his opposition of President Museveni, and his friend Ziki Wine, who was recently tortured to death under that same regime. These are the kinds of things that are going on around the world. And a lot of this we just never hear about unless we're tuned into it. Atrocities have been going on in the world for thousands of years, perhaps ever since one caveman felt that the rocks on his side of the mountain were better than somebody else's rocks on the other side of the mountain, or in a cave, or in a river, and he decided to kill those others over this dispute. But we have the ability to report on this and to do something about it with more alacrity and efficiency than ever before. It is our duty as people of faith and conscience, and I'm including anybody here, of any faith or no faith, to bring to light the atrocities and human rights abuses that come to our attention in the course of the day, in the course of our activism. We have the power to influence and affect political regimes, since we are often looked to for leadership. Whom does Trump look towards for support of his policies and his presidency? He surrounds himself with his religious advisors, many whom are extremely conservative and uncritical of his shortcomings, and I'm specifically referring to prosperity gospel pastor Paula White. All right, if you know anything about her, prosperity gospel is, well, it's a highly questionable and controversial theology that most Christians reject. Right? You can Google that on your own. Bottom line is, no politician wants bad press. And religious advisors have the power to influence policy. Now, we don't have to like our elected leaders, but we have a responsibility to influence them, to tell them that we don't like the policies that they are enacting in one country or another, various regimes that they are propping up in the name of our national interest. For millennia, people with prophetic voices have been vying with those who are yes men for politicians and heads of state. The struggle between those who want to glom onto the rich man or the king by praising everything he does on one hand, and on the other, the prophet who is willing to stand up and criticize what the strong man is doing, reminding them that they have a duty to uphold justice and the well-being of their subjects, all of their subjects, and to remind them that there is a power above that is watching them. Or maybe there isn't, but we're talking about prophets here. It is time for us to speak up every time we see injustice, not just when it is popular or convenient to do so, but even when it is inconvenient. We need to speak up for the voiceless and the downtrodden of every country, including our own country. We keep sending troops to certain countries to pave the way for democracy. And too often, these are the countries that have some kind of resource that is desired by multinational companies that have the power over our politics. But the countries that have little to offer in terms of mineral rights or national resources, natural resources, we tend to forget about them until it is too late, until there's a genocide and it's in the history books. But there is one thing that all politicians want, and that is public support. If we can stand up as religious and ideological leaders and educate the public about the atrocities and human rights abuses going on in forgotten countries, so that we can be sure to withhold from them the most important natural resource of all, public opinion. We can compel our elected leaders to do what is right, and it is we that create a good leader, that shape their administration and their governance, so that they are answerable to us, whether we like them right off the bat or not, all right? Whether we elected them or not, whether we voted for them or not. It is our responsibility to be the Queen Esther to the impressionable King Ahasuerus, and to humanize him in the face of his erstwhile advisor, Haman. It is our responsibility to be the prophet Nathan in the court of King David, and to reprimand him for his indiscretion with Bathsheba, which led to the death of Uriah, his greatest general, the former husband of Bathsheba, and in turn, to turn David from a despot into the great man that he is remembered to have been. It is our responsibility through our interfaith work to not only bring together people of different faiths and creeds, but also to work and exert influence on the ruling bodies and individuals so that we can ensure that this world survives for our children and our children's children and our children's children's children. Now, in closing, I want to say that I'm extremely delighted that our march has accomplished something important that we have previously committed to. And what I'm talking about is that we're bringing in voices from the margins, the communities that have historically not been invited or been welcomed or made to feel comfortable at interfaith gatherings. And I want to show my gratitude to those who have helped to make this happen, and to those who have shown up and marched with us for a common cause. A wise friend shared with me not too long ago that tolerance is how you treat people when you disagree with them. On one hand, it is great for us to find common ground and to agree on many things. It's important to find some kind of common ground, to recognize the humanity in the other as a category, with quotes and a capital O. But what do we do after that? Do we just ignore our differences? Or try to strong-arm the other into agreeing with us? This is where we have to do the tough work, and to find a way to continue to love each other, even if we dislike their beliefs. This is the mark of a mature movement, a truly humane movement. The more voices we have from the margins, the more easily we will be able to form a coalition and a broad consensus that will convince our world leaders, be they elected or otherwise, that we require them to do the right thing and to ensure the survival of the human race, and that they must abide by the divine and natural wisdom that we are sharing with them.